He definitely is the best driver we ever had. To be next to Max is a special thing, you know. Yuki started well. He didn't have the success what we expected from him. Isack Hadjar, for me, is the most impressive rookie.
It's just me, Matt Magendie, in the studio this week. Rick's busy elsewhere. There's no race weekend, so we're not doing our usual dissection of what's happened. Instead, I got the chance to talk to a really integral member of the Red Bull racing team in Dr. Helmut Marko. Now, Helmut Marko is probably a name a lot of people know, Dr. Marko. I've always described him as motorsport consultant. Now, I think maybe I've been getting that wrong because instead he introduced himself as a director of the team. Now, what Helmut was initially, he was the conduit between the team's founder, who bought the team from Jaguar, Dietrich Mateschitz, and the racing team. So he was the sort of eyes and ears in between the owner and the team itself. One of his key facets is bringing through these young driver talents. So Sebastian Vettel, and now obviously Max Verstappen. And it was great just to catch up with him and talk about all sorts of things. Obviously, central to that is Max Verstappen, how he first came across him and what he thought, his perceptions of him, talking about how he's grown into the racer, the talent, the super quick superstar that we know he is now. We talked about Yuki Tsunoda and his settling into the team after that early change, bringing him in for Liam Lawson, and also about Isack Hadjar at Racing Bulls and how impressed Dr. Marko has been. There's so much to talk about with him and almost like not enough time. So let's talk about Max. Is he the best you've ever worked with?
He definitely is the best driver we ever had, and he's developing. And in Imola, this third corner overtake was unbelievable, and I don't see the end of his progress yet. It always comes something extra, or like last year, the race in Brazil in the wet, from I think 17th to 1st. He's getting faster with less risk and more calm. You know, he doesn't have to push every lap. He's really, I wouldn't say relaxed, but he's not pushing, or it doesn't look like he's on the limit or so. It just, when it matters, he delivers.
What is it that makes him so special? Is it easy to pinpoint?
He had a tough time with his dad in go-kart. He trained him for all situations, you know, that you have to be, when you come to a new circuit, you have to be fast immediately. You have to go out in the rain and things like that. But on top of that he has an unbelievable talent. He had this training, as I mentioned, from Jos, but he also is, the rest of the time he has is on a simulator. So I can't really say how much it helps, but I believe whatever happens to him, he knows about it because he haven't seen it one of the simulator situations. And he's committed. He is just interested in racing. He does, beside that, nothing. He has quite a simple life. And that, I mean, all that together makes a very strong racing personality.
Is there a best moment you've ever seen from him as a driver? Is there a standout moment for you?
As I said, he's still developing. But one thing was already in the beginning, he don't need any warm-up or knowledge, you know. If it's wet, he goes out and he's 2 or 3 seconds ahead of the others. And then it takes him 3-4 laps and they can match the max time. And that is one of his really strengths. Or after we lost the race in Singapore, we went to Suzuka, and his first lap, I can't remember how much he was in front, but it was immense.
Do you remember what age he was and what he was driving when you first set eyes on him, and were you immediately impressed?
I believe he was 15 years old. And when I first met him, normally I don't sign any driver without knowing him personally. And the conversation goes 20, maximum 30 minutes. And with Max I was sitting for an hour and a half. And the impression was there was a very wise man in the body of a 15-year-old boy. So he was far ahead already in his development.
So did you walk away from that meeting and think this is something special in the head, like this, he's got something?
Special, he's very committed and knows what he wants. But at that stage, we were talking about being member in the junior team. We didn't talk about Formula One.
It's almost like it sounds like a proud father or proud grandfather talking about this young Max Verstappen, 15 years old, first coming into his life as a racer. And it kind of got me wondering what it is that Dr. Marko looks for in a young racing driver. What sort of talent? Is it just raw pace? Is it something in between the ears? What is it that makes them tick, and what makes him select those certain individuals?
First of all, it's speed. Or what Red Bull Junior team is about is performance. So the speed is the base, and then you have to feel the passion and the will to do something which is special and which is outstanding.
Are there any young drivers that have got away from you that you wish you had got, or anything like that? Do you ever have any regrets like that?
No. If we don't continue with them, we made, I think 98% are racing in different categories. They are successful. They are earning far more money than they would earn in a normal job. So, and they do what they like. But I can't say, there's no name regret that we have.
It's a hard business, isn't it? It can be cutthroat. You know, there's only 20 places on the grid in Formula One, and it's difficult to make those decisions.
It is, and it's even more difficult if you see, I think there are around between 1,500 and 2,000 drivers starting each year new. And in average, you only have one place in Formula One. This year is the exception. Because you see, some of the families, they don't have the money, they borrow from the bank, so they take a big risk.
It is so unbelievably hard to get on the Formula One grid. You've got to think there's just 20 seats, 20 of the very best drivers in the world. So even those back markers are supremely talented individuals, able to do something that very few people on this planet can do. Now, we shifted in our conversation away from Max Verstappen and on to the team's number 2 driver, Yuki Tsunoda. Now, everyone will know he didn't start the season as the team's second driver. That was Liam Lawson. So interesting to pick Dr. Marko's brains on what Yuki's brought to the team and what has changed since he replaced Liam Lawson.
To be next to Max is a special thing, you know. I'm not so sure if nowadays someone says, my big goal is to be next to Max. They want to be in Formula One, yes. Yuki started well. He didn't have the success what we expected from him, but on Friday he is always within a tenth or 2 tenths within Max, which we didn't have for years. So Yuki has to translate his speed, which is there, into points.
He's got the talent to get to the podium, hasn't he, for races to come?
He has a talent, and he improved also in his personal approach. We all know how impulsive Yuki can be on the radio. He learned out of it, and he's a quick driver. You just have to get his act together, not to try to beat Max, which is impossible. But I think he has accepted that, and I hope he will make a lot of points.
I know you can't unearth the next Max, but you're always looking for the next talent. So who are you excited about from your young driver program? Are there some good names that stand out for you for the future?
I mean, definitely Isack Hadjar. He, for me, is the most impressive rookie. He comes to a circuit which he doesn't know, and within 3 laps, he is competitive. And he's a regular Q3 qualifier, and it comes very natural, you know, and he also proved in his personalities. I heard some of his interviews which were really funny and also showing a lot of sense of humor, also about himself. He can laugh.
How do you work with a driver like that when he's at a race weekend? What do you talk to him about? What guidance, what support do you give him in your role?
Of course, I watch all the races and the training sessions, and I talk to them when I see something to improve or if they did something very special. But we have a group of people working on the physical, on the mental, and also on the technical side. They do all the detail work, and I'm just overlooking and interfering if it's necessary. Let's put it like that.
But how special is it when you start with a talent at a young teenager and then see them get to the top? Let's say Max as an example, first him at 15 and you see him become possibly the best there's ever been. Is that very rewarding?
That's very rewarding. And in the beginning, I also didn't think that Max would win 4 championships. But it was something special when I saw a race in the wet where only 3 corners at Norris Ring and he was 2 seconds faster than the other ones. So you saw there is something special. But that is that good and dominating and becoming one of the best of all. Yeah, that shows that what we are doing is the right thing and that we also lucky to have such big talents and characters which we brought up.
Yeah, so it's fair to say that Max Verstappen has exceeded Helmut Marko's expectations of what he saw as this 15-year-old. He definitely thought he was supremely talented, but to go from supremely talented as a teenager in the junior ranks to winning 4 world titles, I don't think he ever could have envisaged that. But the conveyor belt of talent never stops. And it's interesting that Dr. Marko, even at 82, he's still trying to find the next person. And one of the drivers he's really excited about, and I think a lot of people in motorsport are excited about, is this Arvid Lindblad is his name, a teenager, half Swedish, half British, and he's racing in Formula 2. Now, he'd won a sprint race in Jeddah recently and then won the feature race in Barcelona. So there's quite a lot of excitement around him. And I think it's a name we're going to hear a lot about. Whether he's on the grid in 2026 remains to be seen, but it's someone I think that Dr. Marko is excited about. And I even got the chance to catch up with Arvid Lindblad and sit down for a conversation, and you'll hear a little bit of that later on in this episode.
There's Lindblad, who is 17 years old. His father is Swedish, the mother is Indian. And when we signed him, it was also him who made all the decisions, so who was asking the right questions. And at that stage, he was, I think, 12 or so. So there are plenty in the pipeline.
Lindblad's obviously been very good this season. How impressed have you been by him so far? And is he a Formula One driver of the future?
He is impressive, but not. The results don't show it. He was twice unlucky when he was on the way to pole position and the red flag came. The last one was 0.8 of a second, which kept him out that he would have got. But it is his mental strength, his commitment, and his very professional approach.
Now, when I'm into my 80s, I don't think I'll still be working. Who knows? But Dr. Marko definitely is. So I asked the inevitable question, is he ever going to retire?
Unfortunately, it's less and less people I know quite well who are still alive or able to come to a race. But as long as I physically and mentally are in the shape to do my job, yes, fine.
I can't help but ask why you still do this. You've done it for so many years. Most people would be having a quiet retirement, but you're not at all.
No, if you are passionate about something and something you love, and especially with such a great team and one of the best drivers ever to work with Max Verstappen, that keeps me motivated and I don't feel any problems by traveling or whatsoever.
And that's a big thanks to Dr. Helmut Marko. I don't think he does loads and loads of interviews. So to be able to get that time to sit down and pick his brains, I feel like there was a lot more I could still ask. So finally, to wrap up this week's episode, it's my chat with Arvid Lindblad, the new kind of wonder kid, I guess, of motorsport world. Because I've been chatting to Helmut this weekend, and he says the secrets to good drivers is one, being quick, but also maturity. And he says he sees that you're old beyond your years, despite how old you are. Do you feel that? Is that one of your strengths as a driver, as a racer?
I don't know. I think some of that's even more related to my upbringing. Just sort of from the age of 7, I was going away with sort of the team, with my mechanic, staying away from my sort of parents for a few days at a time when I went to go racing, and that sort of forced me from a young age to mature very quickly.
You talk about Formula One. I guess that's been the goal from day one. That's why you race. That's what you watched on TV.
Yeah, I want to be a Formula One world champion. I started this journey when I was 5, and that was the goal then, and it's been the same ever since.
And was it Lewis who was the idol when you first started, or in the early years?
Yeah, I'd say it was more Lewis, because when I started to get more into the sport, it was at the point where he was winning, and then obviously being of colour and myself being of colour, I felt some form of link. I also thought it was a bit weird, but the fact that his first year in F1 was the year I was born, so I felt some form of affiliation towards him in the beginning when I was sort of 7, 8, but recently I think I've kind of now got to a point where I don't think I idolise any of the drivers in Formula One, but just have a very big respect for them all. The level they perform at is extremely impressive, and I just respect them all very highly.
It's surreal for both you and Lewis, potentially, if you're racing against each other in Formula One, that you're born the year that he started in this sport. It's mad.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens, but definitely that would be a very cool moment.
You can follow the show on Instagram and TikTok, and you can watch us on YouTube. And while you're there, you might as well subscribe. Links to those are in the podcast show notes. And please, can we ask you to rate the podcast in your app of choice, and we might read some of those out. You can send any questions or thoughts about the show. Remember, there are no stupid questions on this podcast. And our email address is theinsidetrack@bbc.com. And we'll see you at the same time next week when Rick will be back in the hot seat, joining me to review the Canadian Grand Prix. The Inside Track is funded and made by BBC Studios, a commercial company that's wholly owned by the BBC. It's produced by Nick Thompson, video editing and social media is by Georgina Revel, James Cook is the executive producer.